Barbara will be sitting with John, Henry's very good friend, and we'd be working together doing what we like to call, and we talked about it coming down tonight, the real voice of Blackstone. The real voice of Blackstone. You, ladies and gentlemen, don't have another voice outside of the one you get when we're on the air. You do have a board of selectmen. You've got several people in government. You have the Enlightened newspaper that comes out once a month, and to her credit and to Michael's credit, her husband, they do a nice job. The Boyko family does bring news to Blackstone, and they support our business people as well, and we have to greatly appreciate that. But when I compare what we had in this town, basically in the same, it's not a new building to a lot of you people, but it's still relatively new to me because I sat in the old one. And ironically enough, everything that's sitting in this building today is sitting almost in the footprint where the old building sat. The town hall was pretty much in this space we're talking about. Instead of going this way, it went that way. So, but anyway, it's going to get better. We're going to enjoy the summer. We got a lot of rain. I got mushrooms in my yard. I woke up one day earlier in the week, and I actually, later in the week, last week, and I thought I was in Pennsylvania Dutch Company, a country with the mushrooms growing in the front of my house. I couldn't believe it, but as the summer winds down, and it will, we're not that far now from the month of August, and before you know it, it's September. And hopefully we'll get some warm, sunny days and not humid, and not thunder showers, and not torrential tropical downpours as well. But tonight we want to talk about things that are of general interest to everybody. I've got a lot of papers here in front of me. Bob Kluchevich has been around for a long time, and Bob Kluchevich has been in a lot of different positions. And Bob Kluchevich knows how to take the heat. And one of the other things he knows how to do is express his opinion. And I've always appreciated that. We've had too many actors and actresses come through here that want to look pretty and act nice and talk very softly. And you know what, folks? It doesn't get done. That recipe isn't a recipe for accomplishment. It is in other areas of life, but it isn't in government. You've got to be firm, you've got to be strong, you've got to be vocal, and you've got to be right, or you lose the respect and the integrity. And when you lose that, you have nothing left. Trust is that big word again. The people can't trust you with bringing home the mail and delivering the goods. You've got nothing to look forward to and nothing to stand on at all. Barbara can do that. I promised you we would do that. I've got somewhere in front of me what we said when we first got here. If we get it, you're going to get it. You are going to get it. I mean, it's starting to pop. There's a little. We're going to talk. Let's meet, ladies and gentlemen, meet Selectman Kluchevich, and we're going to get into a hot potato right away. I was absolutely blown away when I looked at an article from the Boston Globe. I just happen to have it right over there. You see me pick it up on a community outreach public meeting notice on marijuana, on pot. The question is Blackstone going to pot? That's the question. Is it hugs and drugs and bugs? Hugs, drugs, bugs, and maybe thugs? Think about it. Where are we going? I've got here somewhere, this isn't Blackstone, this is the city of Worcester. Look at the smile on that young lady's face. That young lady is smiling because marijuana in the city of Worcester is really off and running. She's getting a delivery. It's like calling up for a pizza. Pepperoni, extra cheese, and a little bit of marijuana would be nice, right? And who knows if that's not going to come. Now, what do you tell us about, and I know you want to talk about other things too, but I just lost it there for a minute, and I'm not going to apologize for that. That's how I fly. What is this all about?
So, Green Choice Dispensary, which is planning to open a retail place where Richdale's is now. So, in the back of Richdale, they want to put a retail business in there. So they have to, if anybody's been by that building, They have to put a lot of money into that building, probably between $1.5 million and $2 million into that building. We were there for a site walk a couple of times now. We did one last fall. We done one before our selectmen's meeting a couple weeks ago. The roof is leaking. There's black mold in there. The electrical is hanging. I mean, it's just deplorable. So they want to revitalize the building. I guess the agreement with the landlord is the landlord's going to put a new roof on the building, but they're responsible for all the interior. So they're going to fix the inside of that building. They're going to change the marquee that's out front. So they're going to put a brand new marquee in there. They're going to put a new parking lot in with fencing. They're going to fix the side. They're going to cut down, shear one of the trees on there just to clean up the area. The fencing along the side of the properties is going to be all redone. And those plows, which were a safety hazard there, which I've already brought up once, is supposed to be removed. So I don't know where that's in the process right now, but.
Let me interrupt
Go ahead.
you. Barbara is well aware of this as well. Barbara's been by there. For a good part of my younger life, I lived over there. I lived on Riley Avenue. At Riley Avenue, when I lived there, my house was number 6 Riley Avenue. My phone number was 883-8506. And there were only 2 more houses after my house on Riley Avenue. Now you go all the way to Mendon Street.
Right.
And we used to swim over there. There was a gravel pit over there. The Riley family owned some of it. But anyway, where did all those plows come from? And what happened to the neighborhood?
So my understanding, now I'm not 100% correct on this, I believe Bob Morse sold the business to a company called Complete Site.
And where are they from?
I believe they're from Cumberland, but don't quote me because I'm not 100% sure.
Well, when I would buy, and now listen, there's people in town that's got an interest with that. So if you're important to us, we need you so that we don't feel stupid sitting here talking to nobody. And we're talking to Bob right now, but you're part of our show. And if we're touching something that you would like to opine on, you certainly are welcome to do that. What is that noise I'm hearing?
Alarm, car alarm.
Or along.
Oh, if they got a baby on board sign in the back of the car. Excuse me. Yeah, if you're interested and want to participate, here's a guy that only a couple of weeks ago brought up the plows. Those of you that don't live there, in that neighborhood, that don't live in Foxbrook Manor, which last week I called it something different, but the last show rather, Foxbrook Manor on Riley Avenue or Austin Street, or frequent the library, you probably wouldn't see how that neighborhood, if you're a real Blackstone townie like I am, when I went down that street, I went down once, I turned around and did it again, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Now, I didn't mean to upset anybody, but you know what? I take a lot of pride in this community. And what's happened in that section of Blackstone on Austin Street is absolutely deplorable. You got nothing to be proud of at all. Every vehicle I looked at across the street were all Rhode Island registrations. Not just company vehicles, but private vehicles as well. And right away I'm saying to myself, is there an advantage if they don't pay taxes tonight? I don't know. But I know one thing, it's not the neighborhood I grew up in. It's awful. And those poor people, I should get off the box, I will right now. Those houses, those people living over there, they're trying so hard to keep their neighborhood pristine the way it used to be. And it used to be pristine. Believe me, I lived there. I walked the street. And shame on us for letting it go to the point that it's gone to. And if any of you have anything to do with it and you feel offended by the way I'm talking, too bad. Too bad. You haven't got a right to do that. Not even close to doing it. Go ahead, Bob.
So you talk about the plows. I actually, I went down there, I took some pictures. Where my concern was at the selectmen's meeting I brought up was the fact that, you got small kids today. Let's say 8, 10 years old. They could be even smaller. They're riding a bike. Kids are talking to each other, not paying attention. Mm-hmm. They're on their cell phones looking at it, whatever it may be. My concern is when you take a 20-inch bike and you look at the size of these plows, these kids hit into it, they can get severely injured, okay? I think that area, if anything, should have been fenced in so that some kind of safety protection in place, but they shouldn't be there at all. So one of my questions was at our selectmen's meeting is, do we bring the owner of the property, not the business, the owner of the property that's letting the people sit there, and then give them an order to remove them? But that's our inspectional services and our building commissioner. So that's out of the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. But, getting back to, Green Choice and what they are is they're having a community outreach meeting tomorrow night. They have to by law, regarding putting a retail operation in there. The plans are, from what they've told us, is they're going to beautify that property, fix it up, and clean it up. So they're going to meet, I believe, I'm not sure if they're meeting in the back or where they're meeting. I won't
They're
be.
meeting outside.
Right, they are.
What is that all about?
Because they have to have a community outreach. It's by law, they have to have that.
Why did they make provisions to do it inside?
I don't know. Well, they can't do it
That's not peculiar to you?
Well, they can't do it inside that building, John.
Well, I understand that, but
It's deplorable.
you're going to ask the people in this community to come out and listen to a proposal. Will there be chairs? I don't know. You guys had a town meeting up there with rain and dark.
Mm-hmm.
The moon was out, the sun was gone, the moisture was in the air, and there you are talking about, all right, all in favor. I went through, I got the warrant here with me. We're going to discuss that, too.
Yeah, we can.
Talk about a giddy up.
We can talk about the warrant.
Ooh, wow. That was a horse race with no horses. Come on, let's get real. And this, I can't believe it. They actually advertised in the Boston Globe, the legal section of the Globe. Please run this legal notice in the Globe on Monday, July 5th. Community outreach public meeting notice. And they've got to be quoting the general law in here, I'm sure. I don't see it. I just looked at it very quickly. I don't see no general law section and chapter. I'm sure there is one that requires that that's going to be done. But you know what? Why is it got to be done? Why are they asking the residents of this town to come out? And it's going to go on at 6 o'clock?
I believe so.
July 20th, 21 at 6 p.m. in the parking lot at the Blackstone Town Hall. You've got a meeting tomorrow night.
No, we don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, we're not on now until the second week in August. I believe the 17th of August is our next meeting.
They couldn't. I'm just really bothered by that. I don't think that's fair to the residents to ask them to come out. There's elderly people. Our population of elderly people, I happen to be one of them, is very, very high, as you already know. I'm not a marijuana fan. I'm telling you right up front. And I don't want to break anybody's heart out there, but if you're a binger or a bong or whatever the hell they call that instrument that they smoke it with, or drink it, I don't know. I'm not for it. I watched friends of mine in the United States Navy as a young guy do time in county jails for being stopped and had possession of marijuana on them. And here we are today. Now you can buy it. Now you can get it delivered in Worcester, the city of Worcester, second largest city in New England. They're delivering. They have more marijuana delivered than pepperoni pizza, probably. I don't know. But that's where we're going. So I'm not a favor. We're going to have 3. The little town of Blackstone, 3. If you stopped and got a little nip at each package store on the way down to Woonsocket from Millville, you could smoke and dope and be stoned completely before you get to where it's entering Woonsocket. Hallelujah. Right? Wow, we're all set. We're on the roll. Come to Blackstone, we've got it. What do you think of that? Huh?
Well, there's no bylaw that said how many facilities could be in town.
Maybe there should be.
So that we're looking.
Can we think about that?
Well, Selectman
Yeah.
Chamberlain brought it up at the last selectmen's meeting that he wanted to limit the amount of marijuana
idea.
facilities in the town.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm all for that.
But currently, there's nothing in our bylaws that say anything otherwise.
Okay, you've got concerned people in that neighborhood that don't want that facility to grow. It's called growing.
Right.
Now, I know that they said to you they took it off the table.
Correct.
That's what I called back in the heyday. That's the snake oil salesman at the carnival. That was called bait and switch. Now, I don't want to get a lawyer upset because I'll be getting served. And I'm on the other side of the counter. I usually do the serving, ham and eggs, and muffins and stuff like that. So I don't wish to get served by any attorney for voicing my opinion. which I think I have under the First Amendment in this country, in the Constitution, every right in the world to do. So I feel comfortable in doing that. But there's a lot of people very concerned about what's going on over there. What changes if they're not allowed to, and I know the selectmen have given them direction, you don't give that license out. It's not even zoned for that.
Correct. All it's allowed to do in there is retail. And John, I brought up at the meeting, I want to be clear on this, okay? Because I had heard something over the weekend that I had cost this town millions of dollars in revenue. And I'm going to tell you, and let me just explain it. The two current tracks right now for the two facilities allow for 5%. State law only allows for 3%. So at the meeting, when Green Choice came in, we had talked about 3%, and I had said the additional 2% that we're getting for the other dispensaries should put into an interest-bearing savings account. Because for people that don't know this out there, okay, we found out at that selectmen's meeting that the United States Attorney General, now I want to clarify, it wasn't the state, it wasn't Maura Healey, it was the United States Attorney General, has requested all the records, he submitted the records request, he wanted all the contracts, all the emails, and all the correspondence regarding the two other facilities. We are not legally we are not supposed to take 5%. With that being said, in those agreements, it said that those facilities could reopen if the Board of Selectmen allowed another institution to come in at a lower amount and renegotiate down to 3%. The entire board, it was a 5-0 vote, has agreed that we scale it back to 3% so that we don't have anything going forward. Because here's what, you can say I cost you millions of dollars, okay? We're getting $130,000 in revenue for that last quarter of marijuana sales. That's what the town is getting, all right? I didn't cost millions of dollars. What I'm doing is I'm protecting the town from future legal expenses because we have the United States Attorney General in here that may come in and take us to court, so.
Let's see if I can do this right. Good evening, Carl, and welcome to the Eldridge Show.
Good morning.
I wish it was the morning, but it's night.
I'm so upset. I don't even know what.
Don't you-
You're right. Wait a minute.
Yeah, don't be
So,
upset.
this is Betty Jean Roy, 20 Austin Street.
Hello, Betty.
Hi, I'm on the butter,
Uh-huh.
the topic you're discussing. And I'm a little bit upset because I heard talking earlier about this meeting tomorrow night in the town hall parking lot.
Yes.
So they were supposed to notify the abutters 7 days prior, and the town clerk 14 days. It's my understanding the town clerk didn't know till last Thursday. This got put in the Boston Globe and not a local paper, which is required, which is the second time they've done it after I brought it up to his attention the first time around. And I want to bring up again that all of their dialogue and these things that they're posting includes the cultivation and product manufacturing. And I don't care if it's a template or not. That agreement that those selectmen signed for the host agreement, in my world, is a legal document. I went page by page that night and pointed out what needed to be amended. And it was overlooked, and I was told, oh, it's a template. They're all like that. I don't agree with that. We're agreeing to a retail store only. And I don't trust these people. I think they're going to slip in the back door, and down the road, all this language hasn't changed, and the cultivation will get snuck right in there. So, I mean, I don't mean to be a negative Nelly, but I'm telling you right now, I have no faith in these people and the way they've conducted themselves and presented themselves to this town, and I don't think anybody else should either.
Okay, I have in front of me, and you probably got the same document. It does, you're absolutely right, it does say in the second paragraph, the proposed citing of marijuana will be at 114 Main Street, Blackstone, Mass., and will include one or more of the following: marijuana establishments, a marijuana cultivator, a marijuana product manufacturer, and a marijuana retailer. Now, the town clerk stamped this, that she officially received it on July 15th, 2021, at 1:30 PM. I'm not sure when the selectmen, when did you people get this? Do you recall?
It was emailed to us Friday,
This past Friday.
this Friday.
Did you hear what the lady said?
Yes, yeah.
You agree with what she said?
It's, so I can say this, the board that took a vote that night was about a retail operation. That's what we agreed upon.
That's what you agreed upon, but the document that you signed had this same paragraph in it, and I brought it up. And Selectman Dubois said, let her finish, and I went all through it, and then I was politely, as was the rest of the people there, told, well, you know, that's a template. That's the way the wording is. And in my world, that agreement that you signed is a legal document, which is why I went page by page, paragraph by paragraph, word for word, and brought up all those errors. You know, back in my day, if I had presented a document like that for legal consideration, I would have lost my job. And that's why I went through it page by page. I'm not satisfied that there's a template that everybody uses in every single town. And don't be worried about the fact that it says marijuana cultivator or marijuana product manufacturer, because it's preceded by include one or more of the following. So what keeps them from including all three?
Because you're not properly zoned to cultivate in that area. That's why. It's not zoned legally to cultivate in that area. They only can do retail sales there. And, you know, I bring this up to you. You know, people are worried about a retail facility over in your neighborhood, and I can understand that because you're looking at traffic. But just up the street, within 200 yards, you have a Boys and Girls Club, and 100 yards across the street, you have the bike path. I mean,
Exactly.
how is that allowed?
Exactly.
2019, you went to town meeting, you changed the bylaw from 500 feet to 200 feet. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that happened in 2019. And legally, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing in the statute that says that we can stop at a number of, and I said that earlier, we can't. They can take us to court and sue us. There's nothing in our charter that says otherwise or our bylaws. You can put in, if 5 facilities come into this town, they have the right to do so right now. At town meeting, Selectman Chamberlain sat in the same seat that I'm sitting in and said that he wanted to put a number on next town meeting, limiting it to 3. Limiting it to 3. I want to be very clear here. It's right now, all that can be done in that area is retail sales. That's by our bylaw.
Well, I hope that you make it perfectly clear, because I don't trust those people as far as I can throw them. And additionally, they didn't do this process properly either, according to the rules from the Cannabis Control Commission regarding the community outreach meeting. I suggest somebody read that.
And I agree with you. You mentioned earlier in the call that it should have appeared in a local paper as well.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure.
Put up to him the first time around. And additionally, that building over there that sat so vacant that nobody cared about until now, and it's been admitted it's got mold and everything in it, and you've got 2 establishments in the front. One is a restaurant and the other is a convenience store with food in it.
Yeah, hello.
Somebody tell me how that's working.
Well, that's under the jurisdiction of your Board of Health, so I'm not trying to sway here. I mean, I'm never one that backs off from everything, okay? But unfortunately, in government, we don't have any control as the Board of Selectmen over that, what's the content or the interior of that building. That's our Board of Health, and I'm not trying to throw it on the Board of Health here tonight or whatever. I'm just telling you, I did 2 site walks in this building. I did one in the fall, and I did one just prior to a few weeks ago, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing in this building. And it's deplorable. And I mean, anybody living in that area, I mean, looking at, I remember, John, you do, Barbara, you remember, it was Thrifty Supermarkets.
I worked there.
Right back in the day, okay? And it's been, what have we had in there since? We had a pool store, we had a laser tag, a pot store at one point.
Exactly.
And there's been nothing since. So I mean, you know, I look at it and I said this, you know, the reason why I voted like I did was I was looking at it from a beneficial standpoint for the town. And what I mean is this, we talk about economic development. Here's an opportunity to take a building, okay, and clean it up. This is the life of Blackstone. This is Main Street. Now we give a better image. Now, regardless of what goes in there, okay, a brewery, a pot shop, or what it is, we have an opportunity to give a facelift to a building that is an eyesore right now. That parking lot's an eyesore. You living over on Austin Street, you should be concerned with the landscaping company over there. John, you brought it up. I just found out today, and I don't know if this is any true, that I thought this company bought the building. They didn't. They're leasing the building from B&M Landscaping. Those eight.
Correct.
Those
Don't worry, we were in the process of working on that too.
Okay.
Took over.
Right, and as I got you on the phone right now, you have 8 storage units on the side over there on the right, right?
I know, but the bottom line is, if the pot store goes in, the plows are a moot point because they won't be able to stay there. So, right now the issue is the pot store. When the pot store can't be there, then we'll attack the landscaper.
Okay, but let me just say this. So, is this right? You have 8 storage units on the right side of that building going in, all right, that are being leased out, they're being rented, and our bylaw doesn't allow that, but that happened? Let's talk about that.
Come on. Let's talk about, let me tell you, I talked about my whole neighborhood and how pristine it was, and you just made reference to the 1.2 million. I wrote it down. I always take my copious notes. Most people can't read them, but I struggle with them, and they work. That much money could be spent on making that building look presentable, and you just made reference to like a facelift. Let me tell you, from the entering Blackstone sign coming in from Millville to the entering Woonsocket sign at the end of Main Street in Blackstone, you're looking at Boomtown, USA. We don't need a facelift, we need a head transplant. The facelifters are going to work. It is. Take a look at what we've allowed to happen to the main street in this town. Back in the day when the sidewalks on both sides of the street in this town had maple trees growing on them.
Yes, they did.
Absolutely beautiful. The green and the oranges and the reds in the fall. And look what you got today. I try not to. No matter what direction you come from. It's pathetic. It is pathetic. And the people in that neighborhood, I'm talking about the whole Main Street.
Right.
There's nothing really attractive about it. There's been several attempts made. Beautify Main Street. Restore Main Street. There's been several attempts made at industrial development. We haven't got the infrastructure for industrial development. We don't. We haven't got the ability to meet the state standards with affordable housing. We don't. The new town administrator did the mathematics. 20% of the bills in this town are paid by business, 80% by the homeowner. And the homeowner ought to be protected by any means and at any cost. And they're not. They're not when their neighborhoods can be railroaded. That operation across from that pot house, the cultivator building, whatever you want to call it, that's a disaster. That looks like something you'd see riding the subway, the Green Line, into Boston, going through Dorchester. That's what it looks like to me. I only said it because I've rode that train many times and looked out the window and say, wow, look at how these people live. That's how we live. That's how they live. So, maybe we are sleeping at the switch. Maybe there is no state statute that says you can do it, but there's none that says you can't do it. But I can remember the day in this building right here, we had more lawyers coming in with suits. We're suing you. And I used to tell them when I sat in this chair as the chairman, it's a Jewish deli, take a ticket on a Sunday morning. We've got a long line. You know what? We're running a community here. We represent people who told us go in there and do the job and do whatever it takes to get it done. And if you don't fight, you're never going to win. You can't. If you haven't got a dog in the fight, forget about getting a seat. You've got no business there. So Chamberlain is right with but it's a little late. It really is. That woman makes such good, valid points. She's got to be heard, and I'm sure she has, and you've listened to her. You've been over there probably 2 or 3 times. I've only driven by it. I didn't go in the building. Is it a Mexican restaurant in the front?
Yes, there is.
And you've got a food establishment that I know he's doing prepared foods. I don't know if he's doing any manufacturing of foods or not. But if there's that much mold and black growth in that building, what is up with that? Now, I don't care if it's the Board of Health that gets thrown under the bus. I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter. It's wrong and it's got to be made right.
Can I just bring up something else?
Sure. Yeah, you do it, because I'm getting too wound up here. Go ahead.
Okay, so I heard earlier before I was able to get the phone number that you were talking about the meeting tomorrow night. So please know that I have a direct email to the attorney for this company. So I asked him point blank, will we have seats in order to sit in the parking lot of the town hall? He assured me there would be seating, and if it rains, we will move inside. So that's the answer to one question. But the whole thing is, and you're right, Mr. Eldridge, with all due respect, I will be at that meeting tomorrow night, and everything I've shared with you, I will be sharing again, and probably for the 3rd time. And I'm praying to God that somebody listens. And please know, my other neighbors are just as upset. Apparently, I have a big mouth, and so I'm the one calling in. But I just want you to know that, we're not done with this, and we're not going to be quiet. And I'm still not feeling good about that agreement. And I just would ask for everybody to take a step back, see how they've conducted this. They haven't followed this line correctly. I think they have to video tomorrow night as well, per the Cannabis Commission. I could be wrong, but I will have that fact for sure tomorrow night. So I've said enough, and I'm sorry if I got upset or whatever, but I really think we need to see how this is being addressed and how we're reacting to it. And I just think a whole lot more time and thought should have gone in it. And may I just make one more point?
Sure.
No disrespect to you, Selectman Kukovic, or I'm sorry if I said it wrong.
Oh, don't worry.
But
Close enough, he said.
a facelift on that building that's been sitting here. I moved to Blackstone in 1986 on Dawn Street. I lived there for 10 years. The Pool King was there. It left. I moved to Millville. I built a house there. I lived there for 21 years. I had to leave and sell it. I lost my husband. And I came back to Blackstone because I thought it was going to be all that it needed to be for me. I bought this vacant lot in this little area neighborhood that you are talking about right now. And I think I did it a favor. I don't want to see my good effort be ruined by something else. So that thing has sat there empty all these decades, and now you're worrying about a facelift. I'm just going to leave it there. Have a good night.
Thank you very much for your call. We appreciate that. And I'm going to let you go on a positive note. I got to take care of this phone. I'll get used to it pretty soon.
Excuse me, John.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. Bottom line, the pot shop's going in, right?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
We can't stop them.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what I understand people are upset. But we can enter into a legal battle, okay? And the reason why is the bylaw doesn't stop it, okay? And I agree with the caller to a certain point. I'm looking at it from a different lens maybe. And I say this because this building has been vacant, okay? And where do we see any business coming in that's going to have to spend between $1.5 million and $2 million to renovate this building? I just don't know it. If this place doesn't make it and they fold, the one thing that's going to walk out of there, it's going to be a revitalized building. Now maybe something else comes in. I hear people say we should bring in craft beer or something like that. I would welcome it. I just had a conversation this afternoon about somebody about, bringing in a brewery or anything. And then we started thinking around the town. We have 2 restaurants. We have the Roast House and we have the Smokehouse, okay? Where else, in Casa Burrito, where are you going to put a brew house in this town? We just don't have the building for it. And, I'm all for, expansion and everything else. And maybe I'm off target, maybe I'm wrong on my vision or whatever it is, but we got to start cleaning up, like you said, John,
Yes.
Main Street, okay? We're going to build, you go up and down, and I'm not gonna start pinpointing areas or whatever it is right now, but you said it, it's not nice.
No,
And
it's not.
and this is, when people drive and it says enter Blackstone, this is the impression they get.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I'm not here to offend anybody, I'm not here, I have to make a decision, and I have to look at the whole picture. From a legal standpoint, from a financial standpoint, or whatever it is. But I can tell you and I can assure you that there will be a bylaw at the next annual town meeting that will limit the amount of them,
That'll be good.
okay?
Okay,
So
now,
truly, this meeting for tomorrow night is just a way of checking that box, right?
They have to by law.
Right, okay.
They have to by law, this Cannabis
and
Commission.
it's an excellent question
This is
Barbara
the
came
second
up
one.
with, too, asking you that, and I'm going to piggyback on her question. Her question was, it's going to be a place that they're going to be selling marijuana. That's an automatic.
It's a retail.
Yeah, automatic,
Right,
right?
it's not cultivation, I want to
No,
be
no,
clear. It's
I
retail.
understand.
The bylaw doesn't allow us, or the charter, or the bylaws, or whatever way you want to look at it, because it's not an industrial site.
I get that, I understand that.
Okay.
So, the $1.2 million, when does that get spent and when does the building get upgraded? Is that gonna get done down the road when he's got enough money and capital to work
No.
with? That's gonna be done up front.
It has to be done up front before he can even open the doors. Kind of like if you go over to the other side of town, you look at DDM
Yeah.
with the old, the overhead door place. Before that was the liquor store.
Oh, liquor.
If,
And it was a religious store, right?
at one point, yes, right.
Between the
Let's
liquor
go out there,
store.
let's go home, right?
But, when they had their grand opening, members of the board of selectmen were invited. We got to take a tour of it. We didn't
That's not even zoned right. That's zoned residential.
Well, you have the.
That is zoned residential. It's not zoned industrial, it's not zoned commercial, it's zoned residential. Take a look. That's the old,
That one.
it's zoned residential.
But there's always been a shop there is what, some sort of a,
Doesn't always make it right.
Didn't
If
say
it isn't right, it isn't right today, it's not gonna be right tomorrow either.
this is true.
And that's not gonna change. Check it out.
I will.
If anybody out there knows if Eldridge is right or wrong, jingle me up. There's the number up there, it'll be up there in a second. There it is right there. Jingle us up and let us know. I was concerned, I'm glad, Barbara, I'm so happy she asked you that question because that answers the question that these people in that neighborhood definitely have is, will it be a marijuana business? And it will be, no matter what gets done. So my question piggybacking was, does he commit to that work being done before there's, what's it called now? Is it weed? What is it called?
Retail marijuana sales.
Okay. That money's gonna be spent in that building upgraded before the door opens to sell.
That's correct. And they have to be inspected, just so you know. They can't just be local inspection. The
Get
Cannabis Commission has to come in and inspect that building.
That's true, right.
Welcome to the Eldridge Show, caller.
Mr. Eldridge.
Speaking.
Yes, Dan Keefe, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You just asked a question. I got to walk away from the TV, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta move it. Get out of the room.
I'm out of the room.
Okay.
So both existing facilities, both the DDM sales and the Buds and Roses, are both in originally residential areas
Okay.
that were the buildings they were in were built as commercial buildings, and so what both retailers had to do was go in front of zoning for a variance
Okay, did they do that?
in order to make them compliant, because Blackstone zoning didn't come into play until the 70s. Both those buildings were built as commercial buildings.
Blackstone zoning, I wanna, and my mind isn't as sharp as perhaps yours, and it isn't as strong and as big as perhaps Dubois, but I still have a little bit left. And since 1969 sticking in my mind, and I didn't mean that to rhyme, it just did, but It could be the early 70s, could have been 70, 71, 72. I'm not really sure, but I knew that they were residential. The districts are residential districts. I wasn't sure that they've gone before the Zoning Board of Appeals and asked for a variance. Now, you know from your time sitting here that the occupation permit or a variance given by the Zoning Board of Appeals, some sticks with the property forever and some do not.
Right, I believe it's a special permit, sticks with the property.
There you go.
Variance
That's
goes
right.
with the owner.
That's right, that's bingo, that's what they call it, I-69 bingo, right?
Yeah.
So that applies there too. And I only mentioned that because of what we're talking about now with this bait and switch deal going on over in that, what used to be a beautiful neighborhood and is not any longer a beautiful neighborhood. In fact, it's kind of sad when you look at what it was and what it is today. But I appreciate your call and giving us the information. And I'm sure that...
I would, if I may, just to clear up a couple of things. So, as Selectman Kluchevich said, the Board of Selectmen's hands are tied on a retail establishment because the petitioner has fulfilled the requirements under the zoning bylaw to allow for marijuana retail in a commercial zone. My argument was never against that. My argument was more against the process that wasn't being followed, not by the Board of Selectmen, but by the petitioner. The petitioner tried to change a bylaw, then a couple weeks later went to the Board of Selectmen and still asked for the cultivation after they failed to get enough signatures
Exactly.
to change the bylaw.
Yeah.
They 2 meetings in a row, they sent a new agreement just an hour or so before the meeting. And even in this tomorrow night's meeting, they didn't give if you just Google the cannabis control community outreach meeting, it's just a 3-page document on what they have to do to fulfill the requirements, and it's very simple. They got to give the clerk's office a notification 14 days in advance. They got to give a local circulating paper same notice, and they have to give the abutters 7 days notice. It's just been, if you watch the meetings, they've been less than honest with the people of Blackstone, and it's just concerning because it's not a difficult process to follow. And I just want to touch point too. As far as the host of community agreements that we made in the past, knowing that it isn't state law for the 3%, it's a recommendation. The legislature has failed because out of the 360 plus communities in Massachusetts, many of these communities have made agreements for more favorable than 3%.
I think it's 351.
Right, and the legislature has failed to act on this in the last 3 years. I highly doubt they're going to be making towns pay the money back. I mean, they may, but I'd rather see the money in Blackstone's bank account than anyone else's. And as far as the U.S. Attorney General requesting all of our documents, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, the mayor of Fall River and the disaster out there with all the deals he was making with cannabis. Well, at that time, he's been recalled ever since. I think he's in jail now.
That's correct, he's just sentenced.
Yeah, at that time, the U.S. Attorney General's office reached out to all the communities to review all the deals because of all the shady deals that were made out there in Fall River. So that's the only thing. But as far as the additional percentage that previous boards of selectmen had made honorable agreements with the 2 existing agreements, those were legit. The additional 2% was specifically for public safety and drug awareness programs, and they were written separately into the contracts just in case the legislature would change their mind on that. But to this day, the legislature has taken no action on that. and that's why we had those agreements in place.
Now, would it be proper for me to say that the discussion going on between Attorney Costello, who I've been told now for a while is supposed to be gone, but he's still here, I think. Is he still here?
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
I'll tell you, I'll speak to that after.
Okay. Attorney Costello and the attorney representing the pot company, I'll call them for lack of, call them what they are, it's a pot company, that's what they do, is, in fact, he referenced him as, I know it's a legal term that they use, my brother. I think that's what he told my brother. And they were switching documents, you'll know if you watched that meeting as well. So, would I be right in saying that what you just said was already reviewed and accepted and recommended by Costello to the previous Board of Selectmen?
You're asking me that question,
I'm
Mr.
asking
Eldridge?
you that question, yes, I am.
The last meeting, Attorney Costello recommended just staying at the 3%.
That's correct.
He feels as though the legislature is going to just limit it to 3%. In the previous meetings and previous agreements, a couple of years back, we intentionally separated that. If you look at the two previous agreements, the 2% is listed separately, dedicated again for public safety and drug awareness programs.
Yeah.
And it's set aside. It can't be spent on anything else. So just in case the legislature were to act on it, which again they failed to act on, he did, recommend the 3%. And I understand the Board of Selectmen going along with the recommendation with legal counsel. But it shows you, though, the intention of the petitioner. Even the petitioner offered to give an additional 1% to the Board of Selectmen. On May 18th, he said, we'll give you an extra 1% if you allow us to cultivate, knowing that that property was not zoned for cultivation. He actually asked the Board of Selectmen that evening on TV, don't take my word for it, you can watch it on demand. He asked the Board of Selectmen to give them permission for a variance, and the Board of Selectmen had to ask Attorney Pfaff if that was possible. Understand now, they still have to go to, for retailer or whatever else, they still have to go in front of the planning board. So this is not a done deal.
Exactly.
They still have to get a special permit through the planning board. And both existing facilities did the same thing. Both existing facilities are in commercial buildings that were pre-existing non-conforming. The Buds and Roses on 199 Main Street, that is obviously was Danny's TV. That is obviously built as a commercial property, not a house or an apartment building. It's a block building. That just fell outside of the commercial zone because of the bike path. That was the only separation. And the old Bell Liquors or the religious card store over at DDM Sales, obviously that was built as a liquor store back in the day before the zoning took place in Blackstone. And you may be right, it may be 1969. That would be a couple of years before I was born. And
young guy.
So that's
You're not so old.
So those buildings were always recognized as commercial, but were not zoned. So they did follow the process.
Okay.
And I was never in disagreement with the Board of Selectmen as far as their hands being limited. Green Choice does fit the criteria to petition for retail only. They were just very shady in their delivery over the last year. So.
Well, maybe that's why they're meeting outside at night.
Yeah, well,
I like the shade.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, listen, I appreciate your call.
Thank you, Mr. Eldridge.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
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 It's almost done.
We're all set. You wanted to respond?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Selectman Keefe ex-Selectman Keefe was spot on what he had said, and, it's basically was, but, to those two meetings where they came in and gave us an agreement at the last minute, we just let it go. We tabled it. We didn't take action on it because we didn't have a chance to review it. Frankly,
while we're talking about in that vein, I don't watch all of the selectmen's meetings because sometimes I want to get up and get dressed and come down here. And I'm afraid that by the time I got up and got dressed, the topic would be over with. But that happened to me one night. I forget what it was. I made it on time. Probably when I said sometimes I raise my voice, it just happens. I don't know. But anyway, the meeting I did watch related to this company here, one fellow was at the, I guess it was the attorney at the podium, and I thought the other fellow was an attorney too, and he sat in that chair right by the door. Do you remember
That
that?
was one of the owners.
One of the owners. Now, was he an attorney too?
No.
No. He sat there and he guffawed and bellowed like, I gotta be polite because I'll get whacked, I know I will. He should have been made to go to the podium and announce who he is and what he does. And Selectman Dubois was very kind and very considerate, letting him do that, because I've seen Selectman Dubois insist other people take the podium. Tell us who you are and your address, so that we know who's talking to us, which is the right and proper way to do that. So, this outfit here, just, I don't know. Did you want to say something?
I'm just ready to move on to the next subject.
Okay.
You said that there was something that you were going to mention.
I don't remember
You
now.
said, okay,
It escaped my mind,
I
but,
understand.
we talked a lot about this. I think we need to move on to other
Yeah,
topics.
yeah,
And not that I
exactly.
want to avoid it, because it's certainly, it's.
It is a big
it's
deal.
hot topic.
It is a very, very big deal in more ways than one.
Right, it is.
It touches a lot of people.
It does.
And it's also going to be used as a measure going forward to what else might happen in this community. And let us know that if you don't learn by your mistakes, you're bound to repeat them.
Right.
So-
And people need to understand, the Board of Selectmen only have so much authority in this town, okay? When you have planning and zoning boards, you have inspectional services, you have Board of Health and everything else involved. Those are separate. They're autonomous for this Board of Selectmen. We only can do what's given, and what we get advice from legal counsel. And so I just came back to me, it was legal counsel. So John, you touched about Pat Costello leaving. The decision we've received.
I did.
If I can just touch on that quickly.
Yes, let's do
okay?
that.
So, the
I could have
decision
you
of
here
the
for a
board.
week, Bob. You could be a guest for a week.
Right. So,
Go ahead.
I never hold back. I
Yeah,
say it
that's
like it
okay.
is.
That's good.
You know that about me. You'll like me or you hate me, but there's no gray area with me. So, the decision by the Board of Selectmen was, we went out and advertised for legal counsel. We received 5 proposals. We thought that the right decision was wait for the town administrator to come in so that we could get her input, as when she looks at the proposals, to take her input and then go from there, okay? Now, would that be, interviewing, making a short list of maybe 2, and then maybe interviewing, whatever. But we have a town administrator we just hired.
Right.
To run the town of Blackstone. We have to allow her, the Board of Selectmen can't be breathing down on her. We have to allow her to make recommendations to this board, and then the board working in conjunction. That hasn't happened in 10 years, okay? There's been a lot of things that have gone on in the last 10 years. And now we have an opportunity for a fresh start. The voters of Blackstone have done that in the last 2 years. If nobody's recommended, in 10 months, you change this entire Board of Selectmen. You want to change. A lot of change is happening, okay? But, I caution everybody with Dory Vecchio coming in, the new town administrator, let's give her some time, okay? We just had Greg Balakonis here for 5-6 months now. It was 6 months. He had 4 negotiations of 5 contracts to try to negotiate. He successfully did 4. 1 decided to go to arbitration. But you know what? We have to allow them to run the town and not dictate to them. So,
Allow who?
the town administrator.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay?
I
And you know
agree.
what? We want her input, the 5 firms we have, okay? And I don't have the names, John, I wasn't prepared with them tonight, okay? But to get her input, along with discussion with the Board of Selectmen, and then we put legal counsel. Pat Costello has agreed to stay until we brought new legal counsel in.
When do you foresee that happening, Tom?
Well, we're hoping maybe by September 30th,
Okay.
okay? Maybe sooner, I don't know.
Okay.
But there'll be some process in place. Chairman Dubois will set that up, okay? But we've had the discussion as a board, and this is the action that we were going to take. We were looking to shortlist it, and then get her input with it.
Okay. I just want to respond quickly as I can. Damn, I'm in trouble. Don't sell the Board of Selectmen short. I know that now there's so many changes going on. Now a lot of boards already, now that they want to be called select boards, because there's women, I guess, being elected. Blackstone had their first select woman a long time ago, and she did a marvelous job, too, by the name of Connie Perot. And she sat here as chairman of this Board of Selectmen, and she also sat as chairman of the district school committee, and did an incredible job up there as well. Now, not blowing my own horn, but I will. Only 2 people have done that in Blackstone. 2 people have chaired this board and chaired that board. Connie Perro and John Eldridge. The only 2. Not an easy thing to do because they're totally different. I wanted to say to you, don't sell this board short. And don't be timid about telling somebody you got to do a better job. Before they talked about changing it to select board, which I don't care what it's called, as long as it's respectful, and as long as you don't dilute the powers that they have, which had been diluted over general laws in years gone by, because they abused their privileges and did things they shouldn't have done. And were amended for it, number 1, and number 2, the general court took some of their powers away. And what they should have done, and when they did do it as well. But you know what, if you've got appointed people, I don't care who they're appointed by, I've got in front of me here a copy of the town charter, and I've got it on to C5-1, general provisions under the town administrator. And there's a lot of people that come under the town administrator's appointment. And I've told you this already. I've made it public to the Board of Selectmen. In fact, I made it public to the candidates at the last election, that this needs improvement. If this was a patient going into the hospital, it would be in intensive care. That's how much work this needs. It's sick. And one of the areas that needs work is the administrators section of this charter. There are changes that need to be made. If you read it slowly, it's actually scary because of the wealth of power that we've let accumulate into one position with no experience necessary in most of it. How do you do that? That'd be like UMass Hospital advertising for a surgeon, and the person comes in and says, well, I managed a McDonald's. Well, you know what? You may not have flipped a burger, but can you transplant a heart? Bob, that needs help. So don't sell yourself short.
And I'm not, John.
If that administrator makes an appointment and they're not doing their job, I'd call them in here the next meeting and put them right on the spot. And if the administrator didn't like it, she'd be the next one called it, or he, and they would be put on the spot too. I know that I've heard recently, Selectman Dubois, through this process that we're going through now, so many town administrators, and it was under the residency requirement that we have, and it was just taken to that outdoor meeting. A charter amendment, an amendment to the Bible of the town of Blackstone, the Home Rule Charter, this right here, made at a town meeting during the week, under the stars and under the clouds, and in the dark, and in the rain. You're amending our home rule charter. Not a big thing, but is it a right thing? No, it's not. So, I should have brought my oxygen with me. This needs work, and you agree to that.
I do.
And
what's that charter, 1971?
well, it's been amended, no, it's
50 years.
It's been done twice. Connie Perro and her crew were the first people that brought the first application forward for adoption by a town meeting, adoption by a ballot question, and the way it should be done. They did it the right way. They worked hard for that. But it's like anything else. The harder you work, the better the outcome is going to be, no matter what it is you're working on or you're trying to do. And it was done a second time by yours truly, because they were playing then, a Board of Selectmen was playing then with the appointment versus be elected. Mm-hmm. And because somebody wanted a fishing license for a friend, this is a true story, wanted a fishing license for a friend, and the town clerk said, I'm not going down to do that, you're not going to get reappointed. And that was the driving force of saying, oh, wait a minute, you can't do that. And when I went to the board and talked to them about it, they said to me, go ahead, Eldridge, try it. And I said, I'm not going to try, I'm going to do it. And we did do it. That was the second time that it was done. That was a long time ago, but it needs to be done again.
It does.
And that's one of the biggest areas that needs to be done. I'm going to shut up. Because I want to hear, you're the guest on the show, not me. I mean, it's 7 o'clock. We're just rounding first base here. I want to ask you a question because of your finances and working with money and working with financing. And we're going to go back to the annual town meeting, the way we do things with big numbers. And I had proposed this to the Board of Selectmen a long time ago. It wasn't the whole board, it was Bob Dubois and it was town administrator that just rode out west for the final time. Happy trails to you, Dan Keys. The need to do better when we're spending the money of the people in this town that pay so much to have a piece of dirt with a dwelling on it and they call it their home. And that certain amounts of money ought to not be taken to a special or an annual town meeting with a possibility of 150 people in attendance, making such a big decision. You don't do that in your home, you don't do it where you work, and you shouldn't do it as a town either. But we do, and it's wrong. We need to do it a better way. And the better way would be, and you need to think about this, because I'm going to huck you with it until I see results, and I want to see results coming right down the road, is let us take it to an annual, let's go to the Capital Outlay Committee, let them chew on it, let them recommend, let's go to the Finance Committee, let them chew and recommend, and let's go to the illustrious Select Board or Board of Selectmen, let them make their recommendation, and let's even bring it to the town meeting and let them chew on it and make a recommendation, and then you know where it goes after that? It goes on the ballot, where the most people in this town will express their honest and true opinion. I need a break. Caller, welcome to the Eldridge Show. Caller, you know what? Call back. That's my fault. I'll sit back and take a deep breath and try to do better. That's the right way to do that. It should not, hundreds of thousands of dollars like it was a $20 bill. And the attitude, frankly, in this community is turned into one of, oh, I got a problem. And the first question isn't what it should be, how can we solve it? The first question is, how much money do we have? Where are you coming from? What happened to logic and common sense? I didn't see them ride out of town, but they're gone. You agree or disagree?
No, I agree, John. I mean, who fights harder on the budget than I do?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Okay, and I mean,
This is for you.
it's okay. Bring it on.
Welcome to the Eldridge Show. Yeah, you're on. You gotta turn your TV down or off. And then we'll be able to talk. Are you with me?
Okay.
Yeah, that's, okay, now we're all set. Go ahead.
John,
Speaking.
hey, it's me, Jack Green.
Oh, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hey, you keep saying you grew up on Raleigh Avenue. You grew up on St. Paul Street.
I grew up on Farnham Street, St. Paul Street, and Raleigh Avenue. That's correct. That's
Hey,
correct.
so why are you against that pot shop? I don't smoke pot.
Neither do I.
We got a $30,000 check from them when I Bell's Liquors there. What are you against that for?
No, that's not true. Bob, you want to?
Yeah, so we got a first check
Yeah, it
from,
was in the paper.
6 weeks in, they gave us a check for $36,000. It's a little bit more than that, but roughly $36,000. We just received a check maybe a week or two ago for $130,000. It was a combination of two checks. The town administrator didn't break it out from which established gave us what, but we just received another $130,000. So all in all, we've received $166,000 plus from revenues for the town.
So keep them coming. I don't smoke pot, but it's income for the town. We don't have any industry.
I agree. I agree. The question is, how many shops selling marijuana do we need? We've already got, now we're working on number 3.
I agree. Enough's enough.
Yeah, okay. That's wrong. That's the only place I'm coming from with it. The other thing I've
No, I agree 100%. Enough's enough. That's it.
okay, good. Then we're together.
Okay.
Now, I'm glad you called the show. How you been?
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Still working.
All it depends, a fellow veteran, me and you.
That's right. Proud of it, too. Yeah, we think back in the day, right?
Yep,
Yeah, let me publicly thank you for your service, too.
thank you. And tell Bob Kay I love him.
He's right there. He's
Thank
sitting
you.
there.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I try every time.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you. I still love your laugh. You're a hell of a guy. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good night. Nice guy.
Yes, he is.
Nice guy. I've known him all
Not
my
because he
life.
told me he loved me, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, I've known him all my life. He's a good man. And he is just a pure, all-American guy. I like him. What you were talking, and I was talking, and we were talking about, again, the need to do differently what we've been doing with our big ticket items.
Right. I mean, you know, we're at one of the meetings and, you know, I'm sitting there, you know, remember when, just before the new election just came on April 5th, I had set up a workshop for the Board of Selectmen
Yeah.
that Saturday because we knew we were going to get at least one new member to the board. We didn't know which way the other election would go. So we went through a Saturday, we're on TV, and we're talking about the budget. And I got a comment by one of the selectmen, do you want to cut the postage too? Okay? Like, I'm looking to, you know, I hear people. I'm out on the street, I hear it, people's taxes are what they are today. You know, you got to remember, I can say something about this town meeting. Last year's town meeting, all that was on the agenda was the operational budget. Any of the articles were suspended and they were carried over to this year. So now we had 2 years of articles in one town meeting, which was this year. The biggest ticket item was the filtration plant.
And how much was that?
That went from 5 million to 8.5 million.
And the gun was against our head.
Correct. Now, keeping in mind, we had certain, deadlines to meet because we were looking at a reimbursement. I believe it could be anywhere from 600,000 to 800,000 that's going to be forgiven. Okay, so we have some deadlines that we had to. The prior Board of Selectmen that were here they looked at the design, the engineering design with this Board of Selectmen that's in now, parts of them. And we looked at changing the design a little bit because we're worried about the cost of flow to Woonsocket with the sewer. So we changed the design. That added $1 million to the project. Long term, it's going to benefit the town. Short term, it was a punch up front. So, you know, you look at the spending, but we had no choice in that. We had to.
No, that's right. It was.
We had to.
The gun was there.
You know, and,
Thank you,
you know, Jimmy Sullivan working with Weston and Sampson. I mean, you know, I can't say enough about Weston and Sampson. John, you know, you've worked with them before.
Yeah, they've been here for a long time.
Right. Jeff McClure, when he puts a project together, it usually comes in on time and under budget. So, you know, again, but the cost of material is out of control now, something like 30-40%. So, you know, factor that into a change design or whatever it may be. Now we're at the 8.5 million. So, you know, excuse me, we had some bids come in. You know, we're right around the 6 million something plus. They're in the back. I didn't bring them out here because I wasn't anticipating answering that question tonight. But we came in under right now. But again, you don't know what the cost overrun's going to be. You know?
Exactly.
So, you know, at this point, that was the biggest ticket item that we had on the agenda. So
Now, in the meetings that you've held so far on such a large expenditure, the need for an incredible, a superhuman being as clerk of the works for that project is going to be enormous.
right.
And are you going to have a committee, or are you going to get outside help, outside of the town officials?
Yeah, we are.
To pull all that together?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
I go back to when we first put sewers in Blackstone. It was Woonsocket and the High Rocks, Main Street. Morgan Roth and Associates were the engineers, and we met, and we had to pull so much together, because the gun was there for that too. That was the federal government, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, and his wife on the boat in the Potomac River, and said, Lyndon, look how dirty this water is, and bingo, the Clean Waters Act was passed, and they came up north and they looked at the Blackstone, and the Blackstone's mouth is in Worcester, and the mills were all the way down the valley, and that was going all the way and dumping out into Narragansett Bay. And that was a giddy up, and we had to do that. So that's probably, this project now will be to the same, much greater, as a matter of fact, a much bigger magnitude than what we did, Devlin and Eldridge and Goulet and Falcione.
So, you know,
that.
we all know that our iron and manganese in this town is very high.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, we're spending an enormous amount of money trying to clean these wells. Jimmy's, you know, allocating, you're gonna see now annually, we appropriate 110,000, you
We
know,
have spent literally millions of dollars in years to improve our water system.
Right.
I go back to the days when Johnny Green, the old fire chief, was in here talking about the need to increase the water in this community to give the homeowners a break on their insurance.
right?
And he was big on that, and because of him, a lot of the streets, ours is one of them, Federal, got water. But a lot of streets, and still streets, don't have water in this community, and they're paying for it, though. Just like there's people paying for sewers that don't have and never will in this town. But the argument, Bob, was, do you let just the people that have it pay the bill? Well, that'd be ludicrous, that'd be
They
crazy.
wouldn't be able to afford it.
But there was people that wanted to do that. To let the people on Main Street and the High Rocks and Waterford, let them pay that sewer cost. Like, their houses, they'll be leaving them.
You know,
So you need to do something with that.
I was bringing an article to town meeting, which I wound up withdrawing, was because I was going to expand the sewer system to the
Yeah.
privilege section. That was supposed to be done in 2005, that was pulled off the table. Now, my concern in that area is two things. The Harris Pond, which is the secondary water supply for the city of Woonsocket.
Yep.
You know, you have Brush Pond on one side, so those cesspools are leaching into that, which flows into Harris Pond. You have the right side of Farm Street, which is Paul Drive in that area over there, that's leaching into that area. At some point, Woonsocket could come up, okay, and say, hey, we want to do a water test, and force Blackstone into it. But you know what? Those people were promised back in '05, okay, when the others, you know, Harris Pond side was being done, you know, Rathburn Street and that whole area, you know, the expansion down Elm Street and everything else, you guys are next, okay? And it never happened. That's an R1 zone. Those are small. Those houses are probably the second set of oldest houses in the town of Blackstone, okay? Those cesspools, you know, to replace those systems right now is astronomical, and, you know, you promised the residents that. You know, I put the article on, the engineering costs were $500,000. Apparently, BSC Group has done some pre-engineering in the past. I need to find those plans and get them back, and then I'm going to attack that this fall. I'm going to relook at that project, see what I can do about cutting the cost of the engineering down, and then bringing that forward to town meeting. So that's one thing that I'm working on as a selectman.
You need to, like this administrator talks about her experience with grants. You need to have somebody, and let that person do it. You know what? This building's open 5 days a week, supposedly 52 weeks a year, hopefully. Last year was different because of the pandemic, I understand that. But that's history now. We're back up and we're running, even though I look at the seats out here, and we're still the, what's it called, distancing, like a very safe way, I guess you could call it. And I'm not going to question that, but let them do the work and call them on it quarterly or monthly. By the way, what's the story with the grant research on that project needs help. Financially, it needs help.
does.
The old argument over that whole section with Harris Pond is who owns it? That goes back to, we did that work years. There's three people left with a lot of experience in this town that's still alive: Dubois, Eldridge, and Perot. The rest, God rest their souls. God rest their souls. A lot of good, strong, hard people helped build this town to where it is, and they've died and passed on. But there's a few of us, only a few of us left. That goes back to that argument about a great pond that was resurrected when Charlie Flashbulb Baldelli, that was the name I gave him because when they were taking his picture as mayor, flashbulbs were still being used, and I gave him that nickname. Charlie Flashbulb Baldelli, he loved it. He thought it was the greatest thing anybody ever called, because he's been called a lot of things with the name Baldelli, the last name, right? That rings a lot of bells. And but anyway, it came down to, we're not even sure you own it, with all the yelling you're doing. We're going to look at that, because that's fed by Blackstone. That's Blackstone's water
Correct.
filling up that pond. And they did some work on it, and there was a thing called the Great Pond, And it was adjudged in court that, you know what, that probably does belong to the town of Blackstone under the old, very, very old Great Pond language. And then they got into a gazillion years ago, the Lonsdale Mill was brought into it, Ann and Hope was brought into it in Lonsdale, Rhode Island. I mean, they went back, the only one they didn't touch base with was Noah, with the ark. Where did that water come from for Noah and all those animals, right? But it makes interesting conversation. But it also makes the necessary thing, you've got to get help. There is no way. This town is, we pay a high tax rate now. No one's going to tell me. Now, I know I'm going to hear, well, we get your trash picked up, you got the recycling. Recycling is a disaster. What are we doing with that? I know it's on the front burner again. And the Northbridge thing is on the front burner again, and you brought that forward. But I
Northbridge is
remember
not-
when that was a moneymaker.
Right, and you know, and I go back to the history, I mean, in 2004, I believe it was, Bill Walsh went with Selectwoman Bick and Selectwoman
I remember.
Perot. They went down to Merriam. They toured the facility with Bill Walsh,
Down the Cape.
down to Cape. I remember on a Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock, I remember it to this day, I'm downstairs and Bill Walsh is selling the deal to me.
Yeah.
And it was an enterprise account. 5 years ago, they changed it to taxation because it wasn't carrying its load. Okay?
Exactly.
And I just have a major problem with something that was, because I got up in 2004 and spoke at town meeting in favor of it, and I sold to the people of Blackstone that this was going to be an enterprise account and it was going to be self-sustaining. It's not doing that anymore. Northbridge contract is not good for Blackstone, okay? We get we pay them $1 to have the rights to the contract, and they pay us $7,500 for service. We man the place, we use our vehicles, the language is everything about Blackstone. We have all the responsibility, the liability, we have to provide the insurance and everything else, and Northbridge pays us $7,500. Colleen does a lot, she does a lot of work. There were no turn-in sheets. They're bringing barrels over from Northbridge. There's no slips, there's no backup. We got a spreadsheet a couple weeks ago, Selectwoman Polak and myself were downstairs and met with Colleen and Kevin Ryan on a Saturday. And, we estimate,
She looks like she's doing a good job. I like that.
yeah,
Selectman Pollock.
you know,
Yeah.
it's a lot. She's doing a good job, and I think for the most part, we're working as a board. You have we have 5 personalities, all different, trying to get it. And we all have our own ideas and everything else. And, she has a lot of good ideas she's bringing forward. Unfortunately for everybody, not a frustration, but there was a delay in getting the town administrator here. So, because of contract or whatever it was pushed out a couple more weeks. So, we're all trying to chomp at the bit and get going and everything else. But, at the beginning, we have to let her come in and we all need to sit down with her, spend some time and tell her where our ideas are. But with that being said, to get back where I was, with this.
I'd like to sit and talk with her too.
Good. And I'm sure.
We're gonna have her on the show.
Good. And I think she'll be welcome to come here,
Yeah, I'm sure she will.
But just saying that, we sat there and then we were presented that, it made $5,000. Well, there's no support for the $5,000. Somebody put a spreadsheet together. Okay, we estimated this stuff. I want to see black and white. I want to see a paper. We got bin number 43, and that weighed 37 pounds, and we got paper in this, and it was worth $50. Okay, that's what I want to see. Not some paper that says to me, oh, we made possibly $5,000. This is not a good deal.
Yeah.
Now, if you're telling me Woonsocket gives us $50,000 back here to dump leaves and everything else they dump back here,
Stumps.
which we're going to talk about at another time.
Yeah.
But right now, if Northbridge says, hey, we're going to give you $50,000 to do it, then I'm all ears, okay? But for $7,500, we don't need you. And you know what Kevin Ryan says to me in that meeting? He says to me, well, if we lose him, it's not a big deal. We send our own guy from Blackstone up to that facility. That's open on a Saturday for 4 hours. We pay a truck to go up there, we pay our gas, we pay the insurance, we pay this, we're responsible for the cleanup and everything else. Where's that a benefit to Blackstone?
It's not.
Yeah.
And then we want to talk about Chestnut Street, okay? That's a whole different animal. We could spend a whole show on that, okay?
Yeah.
But that'll be addressed down the road, okay? That needs to go, folks, that needs to go back to an enterprise account, and if it can't sustain itself, then close the damn thing,
Right.
okay? It's not a benefit. What, to dump leaves? We can dump leaves and stumps. and trees and everything else up there if we have to, okay? My concern up there right now is, on the side of that. This Countryside Auto that was there, it's closed. We talk about water, okay? Is it being contaminated? Selectwoman Boso is working on getting a grant through Senator Fatman, okay, to do a water study, to do a site, 21E up there, okay? And then see what we're facing. Because that's another area of concern. I know I just got off track from recycling, but, that whole area needs to be looked at. And you know what? If we're losing, over $100,000 a year, then that's something we need to do because that's coming out of taxation right now. So you're looking at cutting costs,
It's a lot of money.
okay? That's not including benefits, retirement, indirects, everything that are on there. And some will argue it's not $100,000.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's $75,000, I'll give you $50,000. It's still losing money, okay? And remove that $50,000 we get from Woonsocket. Now you're up over 100. So don't get me going on that because we can sit here and spend a whole show on that, John. So that's down the road.
We've got a whole lot of shows we're going to be doing. Now, you got a thought out there, a question, we want you to give us a buzz. Numbers up there on the screen under my big head. Jingle us up. We'd be glad to talk with you about anything at all. And if we haven't discussed what's on your mind, still call us. We'll find out if we can help you out with that as well. Now, one of the things that you don't mind hanging in here for a while, right?
I'm good.
Okay.
I cancel all my slate for tonight just to spend with you and Barbara.
But you couldn't be with two better people.
You know what? I love doing this, and I love people when they call in and hit the hard questions.
Exactly.
If I don't have the answer, I'll get it for you. But you
Exactly.
know what? I'm going to tell you what it is. You might not want my answer, but I'm going to give you one.
Jingle us up. Now, we told the audience that we have early on, in fact, I think our first show, that we were going to get the contracts in this community. We're going to find out how many trucks and cars the community owns, Blackstone has in their fleet. And we do have a fleet. And we have several vehicles that Blackstone bought and Blackstone uses and Blackstone maintains. We've got labor contracts that have they're not all done yet, right?
4 out of the 5.
4 out of 5 contracts have been negotiated. Now, I know that they're online, but I also know that not everybody has the time to really get into the computer and go page for page, and some people have eyesight problems and they can't really see it. But what we're going to do is this in the future, in the very near future, we've got the contracts, and we know that the average percental cost of fringe benefits for the worker in this town, the worker, frankly, anywhere, it's an average that's used by the federal government, state government, county government, and it should be the same thing in local government too. The amount of salary that you appropriate at the annual town meeting is actually in the town report. You can find it. If you've got a town report, if you haven't got one, come on down and pick them up. They still got copies
They're
of
out
them,
there.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Come down and pick them up because there's a lot of good information in that town report. And when it's raining, it's been raining quite a bit, and you got no place to go and nothing to do, you'll be amazed when you pick up the town report and you start look at the salaries that we pay our people. And I know they all work hard. And I know they're all doing a fine job. And I know that because that's what we're told. And so that's the way it is. That salary number that you look at in the annual town report, whatever it happens to be, to really know how much that person is costing you as a taxpayer, what the real cost, total cost is, and you only know this if you're in management and you're in the private sector and you're doing budgets like Bob Kluchevich does, it's called the fringe benefit cost. Fringe benefits aren't free. Fringe benefits, as a matter of fact, are very, very expensive. A lot of people today work for fringe benefits more than they do for a salary. The average is probably 35%. So if someone's making $75,000 a year in the annual town report, that's $75,000 plus 35%, because the town's paying for that fringe benefit cost. The people who work for the town now, unlike prior years, are paying a percentage of it, but they're not paying all of it. So to be fair, you'd have to deduct the percentage that they're paying. And the biggest nut you're looking at is probably healthcare. It's Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever it might be, United, or there's several of them out there. But it's all in there. When they go on vacation, they get paid vacation. When they go on any type of a sabbatical, they usually collect their regular salary. And believe this or not, unlike in the private sector, when they leave and they haven't used all of their benefits that they have, like vacation or sick days, they all get sick days, they get personnel days, they get holidays, a lot of holidays. They get a lot more holidays than you get or than I get. They have every holiday you can think of. Every time something big happens, it's a federal holiday. So everybody in the government, the whole country pretty much shuts down for a federal holiday, except us slobs that work in the private sector. We've got to get up, get the car started, blow the snow off of it, and get the hell out of town and go to work, right? That's the other thing. Most of these people live in town. So they just roll, like if I worked in this building, I would just roll down the hill and I'd be at work. That'd be nice. But all my life I've traveled. So I have to work. I got to get on the road. On the road again, Willie Nelson. I love Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson said, talking about fringe benefits, he said, when I die, roll me up and smoke me. And we've talked about the pot, right? Pothead. Roll me up and smoke me. Willie must be a very happy guy. He lives well. But getting back to the fringe benefit cost, Barbara has got us in a position now, the Eldridge show. It's going to be the John and Barbara show. I like that even better than the Eldridge show. It's because that's what it is. We are a team. But she's done so much work. It's going to be so easy for us to bring that information to you. We said we would, and we're almost ready. You would just say there's one more to go. One more to go, and you're going to find out how many bananas are really on the tree. And let me tell you something. It's big. It's big and getting bigger. And now, when did we start? I'm just ad-libbing here. All of the contracts. Everybody's got a contract. It's like we're working in Federal Hill in Rhode Island. Years ago, Patriarca, everybody had a contract. It wasn't in Blackstone, but over there it was. And in the Winter Hill gang up there with Whitey, his family, they all had contracts and fish heads and horse heads and stuff like that. When did we start with all the contracts?
Well,
whose advice was that?
So I remember that when we had Kenny Bianchi.
Kenny Bianchi
was the first one as a town administrator to get a contract. There may be others, but that's the one I remember.
Yeah, there were others. In fairness to everybody else.
Okay.
There were
and I don't
others
know
that
the
had
history
contracts.
there.
As a matter of fact, Ray Howland, you know who he was?
Ray who?
No,
I did that too.
no, not Ray. Ray Howland. You know who Ray Howland was?
No.
No.
See? Neither did Barbara. But Ray Howland was the first town administrator.
Okay.
And Ray lived in Blackstone without a residency requirement. Ray lived because they already lived there. And Ray had a contract. And in addition to the job description, which is so far from a contract. But go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, I remember starting there, and then, then I left the Board of Selectmen for a period of time, and then gradually, and I don't know this to be a fact, but, when the Keys, I believe that a lot of people started getting contracts in the town. Now, I could be wrong with that statement, but then, I don't ever remember, the town accountant having a contract. Because we went through turmoil with trying to get we played ping pong ball. We're getting a town accountant in here. And then, finally we got one, but because we were paying more money for firms to come in. It was a disaster.
I understand.
And then the tax assessor has a contract. And, and everybody else has a contract. The police chief has a contract. The lieutenant has a contract. The fire chief has a contract.
Now, see, they were always considered management.
Right.
And when contracts became a big deal, then the unions brought the contract into play. And that was many, many years ago. John's not that old, but I was around for some of the blessings of the contractual language as well. And if there was anything, that whatever was done for the initial contracts, the management people would be treated the same way. And then we went into a thing called, I don't know if you've heard this phrase before or not, or Barbara has, but it was called, because contract kind of scared people a little bit, a little nervous. What do you mean contract? I got to sit down now and negotiate? Well, maybe we'll call it a memorandum of agreement. That had a nicer,
MAU.
yeah, that had a nicer meaning to it. It wasn't as scary.
Right.
Contract, what the hell? Oh, let's not do that. Let's do a memorandum of agreement. So we did that for a while. I remember the case that stands out in my memory the most was we hired the first town full-time engineer.
Remember that?
You remember that?
Yep.
Remember the guy's
I
name?
believe it was Wayne Bates.
That's exactly right. Wayne Bates. It was really Dr.
Wayne Bates.
Dr. Wayne Bates.
Yes, it was.
That's right, the doc. Is the doctor in the house. And the doctor did come to the house, right?
I was on a board of selectmen then.
Yeah, you was. Okay, then you're going to really remember it, and I'm glad I brought it up. Dr. Bates got hired and was given a salary, and I want to say,
90,000.
well, it wasn't right away. It was 60 right away.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
It went to 90.
Yeah, now you remember, huh? Kumbah. Now you play the guitar, right? Now you remember it was 60. And then all of a sudden, it went from 60 to 90 with the memorandum of agreement.
Correct.
And I said, with my loud mouth, causing trouble all the time, how did that happen? Town meeting just gave the guy 60 grand. Town meeting in April. May, June, July, August, 90. Well, he's doing more work. Well, did he get another degree? Did he go from leg surgery to open heart surgery? I don't know. You call the doctor. What the hell's he doing? What's different? And the difference was he got more responsibility. So, and thank God he got on his pony and he got his whip and he giddied up and he got out of town too.
And we brought in Shane Moody.
Shane Moody. Moody Blues. That's right. Yeah, Shane Moody. You got a good memory, by the way. I'm proud of you. Yeah, you're going back in the memory bank. That's good. That means you're still healthy.
Oh, I hope so. I do have, I still,
Still thinking, that's good. I'm so happy you're here with us tonight.
well, you know, when we talk about budgets and stuff,
Yeah.
I can remember the battles I had sitting, you know, I was in this chair, I was in that chair, and I was in that chair. And I had a lot of battles over the years. So
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
And, you know, and when we spend the money, I'm like, you know,
I'm sure you did. Now, my first chair was that one way over there. And I used to give what I would call, and this leads me to another topic. Let me finish this one. I used to give a minority report because I was the minority. I was alone. It was like 4-1.
me too.
I said, what the hell? I like everybody. Why is it? What's wrong with me? I have to give a minority report. So go ahead and do your thing. And when you four guys are done, I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman, you're going to say, Mr. Eldridge. You don't really want to say Mr. Eldridge. You want to say something else, but you got about a respect. And I understood that. And now, so I don't lose my train of thought here. 5 selectmen. A chairman of the Board of Selectmen. A vice chairman of the Board of Selectmen. A clerk. That's all you got for offices, right? Do you have a
Correct.
treasurer?
Yep.
You don't have a treasurer?
No,
No, because there's no money.
correct.
That's the treasurer want to do. That's
We
the-
have one over there.
That's the job I'd want, is treasurer. What's the report? This one, like any correspondence, not at this time. Like the Pony Express never came to Blackstone when Dan Keyes was the administrator, right? There was never any correspondence at all.
No.
But here's the point I wanted to make. 5 co-equals.
Yes,
You do have a chairman. Chairman's job is to do parliamentary procedure.
correct.
And he works now with the agenda, or she works with the agenda. When I was here, all those years, we gave that responsibility at the direction of the Board of Selectmen to the administrator. Because I would like an article on the agenda, I got it on the agenda, even as a minority member, that 4-1 day. And that was the way it should be. And that's the way it should be today, too. But is it?
I can say, well, Let me just say this, John.
No, I want you to say, is it or isn't it?
No,
No, it isn't. Okay, go ahead.
but let me explain.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So when I and Selectwoman Boso got elected to the board, there was no town administrator here because it was COVID. He was in Springfield. So
I wonder how many people in town knew that he was never here.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
I'm taking you
But if I
down.
look at the camera and I say, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard it now, from a sitting Selectman Bob Kluchevich, that during COVID, Dan Keys, the then sitting town administrator, was very seldom, if ever, in the town of Blackstone. I'm telling him the truth.
You are right.
You hear it.
These employees, I'm sure Selectman Keefe is watching this, fended for themselves. You'll hear them say it.
I
okay?
did,
You know, he's said it many times.
yeah.
You know, so the town was basically, they were working on their own, okay?
But you were running on automatic pilot.
Somewhat,
Yeah.
right. So, you know, he would come to the selectmen's meetings, but that was probably the extent of it. He left. He decided he was going to retire. Okay, so he picked up his bag and his computer and he left town,
Oh, well, he went to the redemption window. That's another
wherever he
question.
went. So he left. And then we were tasked with getting an interim in here. We selected, you know, we went through candidates, we interviewed, and we made a decision that we would bring in Greg Balakonis. And we brought him as the interim, till we decided we were going to then go out on the search and hire a firm to bring in our next town administrator. Now, we hired that firm, we had 43 applicants. We had 17 people to choose from at the end of the day, which we narrowed the field to 6, which we did all the interviews publicly. And some of the, you know, and I can tell you some of the conversation I can share now was that we had concern with the employees. What was the right fit for the employees coming in? And we felt that Dory Vecchio was probably right there. Even though she wasn't a town administrator, she was an assistant manager in the city of Worcester. So, you know what? So she's the next shot. I mean, we had it with Mike Kaczynski. We had a lot of.
I think you made a good choice.
I do too. You know, we didn't want somebody over the top, and we didn't want somebody that we
I
felt
think you made a good
wasn't
choice.
strong
Barbara
enough.
feels the same way, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, you know, again, did we make the right decision? You know, time will tell.
Time will tell.
But you know what? Based on what was presented at the time, we felt we did it. So we not only looked at what was the benefit of the town, what was the benefit of the employees. We waited out with all the candidates. We had some candid discussions. I will tell you that. There were some very candid discussions. It took me 3 days to decide on a candidate. Okay, I was the holdout, the lone soldier. Okay, and we had dialogue, and because I wanted to listen to what everybody else had to say.
Sure.
And then I came to a conclusion. It was unanimous, 5-0 vote to bring her in. So, you know, now we had to wait. We had to adopt a contract, which we put together for her. We had tweaked some things back and forth. So we finally got her on. And then we had a.
Who did I'm under the impression Chamberlain did that.
So Chamberlain did. But on the direction of the rest of the board. So
So the board did partake in that discussion.
correct. So everybody understands it wasn't Selectman Chamberlain that went out and negotiated the contract.
Okay.
He took the advice of the board, okay, after running it by the board of what the areas of concern were for her. He was the point person.
Yeah.
So we elected, so it was Selectwoman Boso made Chairman Dubois and Selectman Chamberlain as the people that were going to work together to negotiate. So it was 2 members and not 3. The whole Board of Selectmen worked together
Sure.
to establish a contract that we were going to put together for her, which we felt was, you know, we could bring somebody in. We gave her a base salary of $144,400. Okay, that's her base salary. We didn't give her a town vehicle. We gave her an allowance of $350 per month instead of the town vehicle. So, you know, that's some of the financial accident. We gave her vacation time, you know, and everything else, which was part of it. We did something different so that people understand this year, that she didn't receive any medical for the town. So there's no cost for her medical to the town. As a savings, I want to say roughly about $18,000. Now, the second year of that contract does have some language in it, not less than $5,000. So that's still a negotiated item with her,
What do
okay?
you mean not less than?
Not less than 5,000. So we have in the language in the contract for her health insurance to give her a minimum of $5,000 in the second year of that contract. So
Is she going to secure a health insurance policy?
we don't know. So the option there is if she takes the health insurance, then she wouldn't get the stipend. If she doesn't take the health insurance, we're gonna give her, because it's still a cost, we looked at it as a cost benefit at the time if she doesn't take it. We're looking at it as an $18,000 figure. You know, if we're paying her 5, then we're saving 13,000 on the big side.
Then what did the town of Blackstone spend and give to Dan Keys?
$18,000 a year,
On top of his salary.
correct.
So now, he was getting an $18,000
We're not taking health insurance,
for not taking health insurance because he already had health insurance.
correct.
Now, again, I want to look at that, when I do this, I'm looking at you out there in TV land. The topic we just discussed and still just talking about is the former town administrator actually asked for and got, because he wasn't getting the health insurance offered by the town, because he already had it, not that he didn't have any. He already had the life insurance, yeah, the health insurance. But because Blackstone wasn't paying for it, he said to the town of Blackstone, I want $18,000, I'm not taking the health insurance, but that's what it would cost if I did. And he got it. Now, if anybody out there this week or all the way forward for the Eldridge and Barbara and John show know of anybody else in the private sector that if you don't take a fringe benefit offered by the company, they pay you for it, call me. I really would like to know. Because I don't know if that happens anywhere else. I have never heard of it. And it also takes an awful lot of nerve for a public official that's working at the taxpayer's dime to ask for money that he or she is not earning, but because of not having the taxpayer pay for a health insurance program. That, to me, is deplorable. That, to me, borders on usury. And that, to me, is despicable. And now you see, you're learning tonight about what the hell's going on in this community. That's wrong. That's not wrong. So, brings us, and thank you very much for that information. Now, it brings us back, Bob, to, you remember the original thing we were talking about? 5 selectmen, chairman, vice chairman,
Yeah.
no treasurer. And does everybody have the right to participate in the building of the agenda?
We do. So I will say this. If you ask Selectman Dubois to put something on the agenda,
If a member of the Board of Selectmen
correct.
wants something on the Board of on the agenda, they can do that?
For most of the time, it goes on the agenda. I do know the last meeting that there were a couple of items that didn't make it to the agenda because they were going to be discussion items within the agenda. So for the most part, when we ask, he is very good about allowing us.
That's great. That's the way it should be.
And I got to say, this board, you know, we may not always agree. We can agree to disagree, but this board can talk things out.
That's good.
And we come to, it may not be the best decision, but I think for the majority of the board, we all listen to each other.
Yeah.
You know, and we work together. And Chairman Dubois, say what you would like, okay, but I can say this over the years, okay? Him and I, you know, John, never got along for years, okay? We always used to be at battle. But I can tell you this, he brings a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge like you do to the Board of Selectmen, which is a lot of upside for some of us, because you gotta remember something. Selectwoman Polak is new. You know, I've been on the board and before the board, you know, on and off. Selectwoman Boso is new, okay? Selectman Chamberlain served 3 years, but he's been away from it for a while.
He's new.
Right. You know, I'm probably the second most tenured person on the Board of Selectmen
you
right
are.
now. And, you know, I feel good working with this. I love working with this board. I really do. I love every member on this board. I can pick up the phone and call any one of them at any given time, listen to what they have to say.
Well, that's the way it should be.
It does. We don't,
I'm glad to hear the answer that if a selectman has an issue they'd like to have it appear on the agenda, that the chairman receives that and does that. That's the way it should work.
Right.
It should really work no other way.
And there was-
Only because you're co-equal.
right.
And the people that put you here and her here and Chamberlain here and Mary Busso here are those folks right out there. They're the ones that make the decision, and you work for them.
Correct.
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's healthy.
And, you know, I will say, like I said to you, the last agenda, there was a couple of items that didn't make it to the agenda because they were going to be discussion items. that were going to be either part of that meeting or that we felt that maybe that needed to get in front of the new town administrator. Okay? And that's the thing. I mean, you know, if she had been here maybe a month or so like that, you know, then maybe we have some different discussions at this point. We're all trying to, like, you know, chomping at the bit because we want all time with her, okay?
Yeah.
But, you know.
I agree. You don't want a love fest either.
Correct. And here's the thing. The people of Blackstone, I can say to you, is this: you've got to give her time to settle in. You know, a good 6 months. I think, John, you would agree.
Yep.
Okay. There's a learning curve. She's got to meet with her department heads. She's got to meet with, you know, the people, the employees of the town, get to know them, who they are, who the players are and whatnot, regardless of what it is. You know, every department head has a different concern, okay? Every one of us 5 selectmen have a different thing that we have in there. And she has to take all that information, compile it, and then figure out what's our strategy, what's our plan. As a board of selectmen, this is our, you know, we all have self-agenda items, okay? But then as a board, we have the agenda items.
Yep.
How do we push those forward and make those all work for everybody? There's a lot of things that need to be
Yep.
done, okay? And I think that, you know, I feel that this board has the ability to do that. I think that we have the mindset that can do that. And, you know, I'm proud to be able to have the opportunity to serve the people of Blackstone.
And you should be, and it's an honor.
It
It's
is.
an honor to be elected by them people to sit in this building and to look over what it is you do for them.
Right.
That's who owns the town.
Correct.
Exactly. Now, yeah, Barbara, I'm sorry.
No, just 5 more minutes.
Yeah, we got to keep our eye on the clock.
Yeah.
I agree.
Sorry.
Thank you for that. Sometimes I don't think there are
Oh,
clocks.
10.
We probably could add another 2-hour show on this.
Well, you
You
know
have to
what?
come back, Bob, and
When it's,
visit with
when
us.
it's, when it's current and it's interesting and it's fact and it's informative, how can you not get it done?
Correct.
That's what they want. That's exactly what they want. And that's exactly what John and Barbara said they were going to give them. So you know what? We're delivering the mail for them people. And we're not going to stop. You can call us the Pony Express, but we do deliver. And someone says that any correspondence, oh yeah, it's going to take a long time to give it all to you, but we're going to do our best. But there is correspondence. Now, my list, Bob, I be honest with you, Barbara has notes over there and I have notes over here, and it's all about you. This is exactly what the folder says, July 19th, Bob K., questions and answers, and plus calls. We got a lot more for everybody, for that Board of Selectmen, because people wanted to come on. And as recently as hours ago, wanted to come on. And this is your time. And for obvious reasons, too. It's your time. But I'm glad that we did this. We didn't get all of the questions into you. So you're going to probably get another invite to come back.
I'm ready.
Yeah, because we
If
haven't,
you block my number, I'll understand.
I'll tell you the truth, and this is the truth. If we got through half, we did good. And that's because I probably spent too much time yakking myself, which is one of my faults. And I'm trying hard to do better. But I sometimes lose control. I don't know when that's going to go away. Probably never. But, yeah, we're going to have to come back. We got time for one very quick last question to you.
Go ahead.
And it's an economic question as well. I heard the talking at the annual town meeting. I watched the replay. I never stayed up to watch it. I get up too early. But I heard the conversation about electronic voting.
Correct.
Yeah, you'd have a number there.
I don't.
You don't.
I don't.
Don't even bother getting one.
Selectman Chamberlain is the one that's bringing it
Yeah.
forward. I don't know what the
Well, I'll
number
tell
is.
him to don't even bother getting one too. For the amount of time, we have one annual town meeting a year. One. We probably have 2 special town meetings. 2. So that'd be 3 times you could probably use that machine. Are you that inconvenienced when the moderator said, would the tellers please come down to the front? And every time I say that, I think of my good friend Fred. And Fred, God bless you and God rest your soul.
Yes.
He did such a great job. That's a joke. That's a wish list. That's happy birthday to you. That's Christmas in July. And you know what? None of that is real.
I think he was looking at it because it was going to be reimbursable under the CARES Act, and it was going to be no cost to the taxpayers.
At
But
this time.
correct.
If
But
it needs to be repaired, if it needs to be replaced, that's what you gotta think of. And I know your mind financially, that's how you look. It isn't, there's no such thing as a one-time expense. Now, I'm gonna start wrapping it up because we got a nice closing that Ashley did that closing for us.
It's nice.
What a job she did, yeah.
very
If you
nice.
really pay attention to it, you'll see how much of Blackstone is in there. And she took the time, and Barbara took some pictures and participated in it. I could never be able to do this without her. Without that woman right there, there wouldn't be no Eldridge show. There would not be. And I just readily admit that. And it's a credit to her that we do what we do. And I hope you people out there appreciate what it is we do, because we're going to be doing a lot more of it. We're going to go through the storm with you. We're going to walk right through the wind and the rain. And we are, but as that song goes that Jerry Lewis sang so many years for the children, you'll never walk alone. And that applies to what we're doing. As long as we're here, you won't be alone either. Because if you don't get it from anybody, you're going to get it from us. And sometimes it isn't pleasant, and sometimes it is. But no matter what it is, you deserve to have that, because it's you that run this community and pay the bill. Now, with all that being said, Bob, thank you so much.
thank you for having me.
A real pleasure.
I enjoy coming. I really do.
You're going to be back, because we're going to do it again. And Barbara, thank you.
Thank you.
My night wouldn't be my night without you sitting there.
Thank you.
That's the truth. And with that, we're going to say good night, good luck, and
God bless.
God
God
bless.
bless you.
Thank you.